Alright, so we're back with another video. I know this one's going to be probably a little bit long. We're going to do the setup of our enemy, and we're hopefully going to be able to get into hit and hurt boxes for both the player and the enemy if this video doesn't get too long. Or if it does, I'm just going to end up breaking these into two videos. But let's get started. So the first thing we're going to want to do, we're going to create our base enemy class. So our base enemy class is going to be an other node. We're going to want it to be a character body 2D, just like it was for our player. And we're going to rename this. We're just going to call it enemy. And we are going to also want to attach a script to this. Just call it enemy. We're not going to do the basic character body 2D template because we are not going to be the one controlling the enemy. And we're going to put this into scenes. We're going to do enemies. Open it there. Create. Also save our scene into enemy. Great. So let's start by building this out. We'll first give it a class name. This is going to be important because each individual enemy that we create is going to extend this enemy class. So we're going to give every enemy some base functionality and base variables that all enemies are going to want to have access to. So what are those going to be? First thing we're going to need is a sprite 2D. Okay. Another thing we're going to need our animation player again so that we can make our enemy animate. And then we're also going to want a collision shape. All right, so let's go to the sprite 2D. And we're going to get the enemy to be in its idle state before we start actually coding anything inside of the enemy script. So let's go to the textures. We're actually just going to go find our asset. We're going to go to enemies, and we're going to use the cop. Cool. So this is our cop texture, the animation. Let's go to 2D. It is 1 vertical and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 horizontal. Okay. I'm going to zoom in. I'm just going to drag it up to be, I want to get the idle frame first. All right. So then we can have right on the x-axis. Okay. Great. Cool. And let's just build out our simple animations. So our first one we're going to make is new. It's going to be idle. This is going to be our default animation. I'm not going to have it loop, and you'll see why. I'm going to have this at 0.2 seconds on the snap. I'm going to go back to my sprite, and I'm going to start keying in these frames. We create our reset. Go to the 0.2. Increment. All right, so this is what, 0.5. All right, and you'll see why I don't want to loop this. So we play this right now. It's the enemy picking up his gun. I see this as when we drop the enemy in, that's what he's going to do to get into his ready stance. If we loop it, it just doesn't, I don't know, doesn't look right. You can ping pong it, which is what this animation is, and he's kind of constantly putting his gun away. I just don't like it. I just want him to stand up. He'll be looking at our enemy, because down the road we're going to make sure that the enemy's always starting position is going to be looking at our player. And then down the road we're going to make a detection component so that when the player enters a specific area, he will start chasing. So we'll add, I guess a chase or a patrol state, I guess you could call it. Let's duplicate this animation. We're going to make our run animation. All right, let's just get rid of these frames. This is going to be a little bit longer. We'll just do it at 1 for now. Since it's running, I'm going to do a little bit quicker of a snap. Let's go back to 0. Oops, sorry, 0 on the frame. We're going to key this in. Just key all of these in until we get back to the idle. I do want to loop this one since this is our run. So now you can see that looks good. That looks like a good running animation for us. Okay. We can also give him a collision shape. Let's just go back to our idle animation. We're going to give him a collision shape. I'm going to use a rectangle for right now.
This is going to be used really just so he doesn't fall through the floor. This isn't going to have anything to do with taking damage or anything like that. This is just going to be where he's going to rest on the floor. So we need to also set up the proper collision shapes for our enemy. We actually didn't create an enemy layer yet, so let's make that. I'm going to put the enemy on 5. Okay. So he is going to be an enemy, and it's going to have a mask of the player. It's also going to need to have a mask of the ground. Okay. Let's go to our test scene, and let's drop our enemy in there. Cool. So he's not going to do anything. He's not going to fall. He should go right into his idle animation. Let's just check that everything's kind of configured, right? Yeah, see that? Okay, he's good. But like, nothing happens here, you know? Not interesting at the moment. So now we need to go back to our enemy script, and we're going to start building this out. So like normal, we're going to need access to these 3 onReady variables right off the bat. I'm just going to clean them up a little bit. I don't like adding the 2Ds at the end. We're eventually going to be creating an enemy state machine. It's going to look very similar to our player state machine, but I don't really want to get into that. That'll be a future video. Hopefully it will be a quicker video since we're already familiar with state machines. I'll try and make that a quick one. Maybe less talking, just more of a showing the code and maybe some text on the screen, but let me know if that sounds interesting to you guys. We're also going to do something a little bit different with our export variables here. We haven't done this with our player, so we're going to do what we call an export category. I'm going to call this physics. So what this is going to do is now inside of our player, or our enemy, sorry, anything below this export variable wise, we'll call it speed float. I'm going to do export var gravity float equals 980. It's going to be the same as our player. So when I save this, you can actually see over here, we're categorizing export variables. So we can use these dynamically in the editor while we're playing the game to get a feel for what works best for us. We're going to do another export category. I'm going to call this health, which we're not going to really get into this video, but we can just set this up and revisit down the road. We're going to call max health is an int. We're going to give him 3 right now. This doesn't really matter, but I just want to show you guys what the export categories can do. Do current health int equals 3. So I save this. Cool. Now we have some more export variables over here. We're also going to give him, or her, whatever the enemy is, a direction of -1.0. So we want all of our sprites for our players are generally going to be looking to the left when we put them into the scene, at least for now. So we just want to preset this direction. We're not going to have anything in a ready function, but we are going to have a physics process function where we need to apply the same sort of gravity and move and slide stuff that we've been doing for our player. So if not is on floor, velocity dot y, so we need to control the y-axis. It's going to be plus equals gravity times delta. Okay. Gravity is not defined because I can't spell. Now when we play this, he still didn't fall, okay? That's because I didn't do move and slide, so nothing actually happened. Now you'll see he should fall, and now we're on the same plane as the player. Cool. Progress. All right, so now I'm rethinking this a little bit, now that we have this set up. I think we're not gonna make a base enemy class. We're just going to make this our enemy. I'm gonna rename it a little bit. I'm gonna call this guy RoboCop. And we're gonna give it a class name of RoboCop. We might end up refactoring this down the road, but I think for right now, or if we do, it's gonna be a quick refactor. But I just want to keep moving along this way. So I'm going to rename my enemy to RoboCop, my script, and I'm also going to rename the scene to RoboCop. Okay,
Perfect. So now we are set here with our RoboCop enemy. He's in our test scene. And we have the animation set up. Okay. Now we need to make our bullets actually do damage to RoboCop. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating our hit and hurt boxes. So let me just make we're going to make the base classes and base scenes with scripts, and then we're going to get into more about what each of them do. So we're going to create, these are going to be area 2Ds. I'm going to call this one hitbox. I am going to make a folder called components. The hitboxes and hurtboxes are going to be used for both our enemy and player. They're not, user or enemy or AI specific. So we are going to make them general enough that they can be applied to any character that you're going to be implementing in the game. So let's attach a script here, which will be hitbox. Let's save it. We're going to go into our components folder, save. Okay. Let's make our hurtbox, again, an area 2D. Call this hurtbox. And we are going to save this in our components folder. Hurtbox, hitbox did not go into my components. Okay, great. All right, let's give them class names. Hurtbox, hitbox is going to be our class name, hitbox. Okay, so our hurtbox is going to be easier. This is going to be to set up. So we're only going to have one export variable in here, which is going to be damage. Hitboxes and hurtboxes have been really confusing to me, not coming with a game development background. So the way I kind of think about it is the hitbox is the area where if a hurtbox hits your hitbox, the character who owns that hitbox takes damage. So this hurtbox is going to emit damage to whatever it hits. The hitbox is where you're able to be hit by a hurtbox. So I kind of like to think about this. If you're playing a first-person shooter game or Call of Duty or something like that, every player has a hitbox on them, which is their body, and then the bullets would effectively be the hurtboxes that when they hit your hitbox, that player takes damage. It gets a little confusing. I honestly never heard of a hurtbox until I started doing game dev. But if you have any questions about it, let me know. So now in our hitbox, this is going to be a little bit, it's going to be our first introduction to signals. So we're going to make a signal called take damage. And we're going to take an amount in, which is going to be an in. Because, right, this is our hitbox. So when we get hit, we're going to have this signal that says take damage, and we're going to pass it an amount, which we're ultimately going to subtract from our health, or whoever's health owns that hitbox. So we need to also connect to so we need to click on our hitbox. We need to connect to a node. It's called onAreaEntered. So what we want to do in here is if the area that's entering is a hurtbox, I'm going to print some debug stuff just so we have some visuals. I'm going to do owner.name, so we'll be able to figure out if it's it's area.owner. Owner.name hurtbox entered hitbox. Okay, so this will at least give us an idea of whose hurtbox is entering. And then what we're going to do is this signal, we're going to take damage, emit it, and the area.damage. Which, since the area is a hurtbox, it will be emitting this integer here. And it was a little confusing. I'm hoping as we continue to move forward, it'll make a little bit more sense. But we're definitely going to be using more signals down the road. So if you have any more questions, maybe I should do just kind of like a basic what are signals and how to work with them tutorial, but let me know what you think. Next, we actually need to go about giving each of our enemy, we'll start with our enemy. We're going to give him a hitbox and a hurtbox. Hurtbox, hitbox. You see we have errors. This is okay right now. It doesn't have a collision shape, so it doesn't know where things are supposed to collide with it. So we're going to make those right now. So the hitbox, we're going to focus on that now because we want the player's bullet to damage RoboCop. So we're going to add a collision shape. And I'm going to make this an oval. Capsule, sorry. I'm also going to change the color here. Since this is where he can be hit, I'm going to make this red. I think that'll give us a little bit more of an idea as to, this is bad. Like, this hurts him. Red means bad to me. So, cool. Doesn't need to completely cover him. That's totally fine, especially when we're working with bullets. So I think this will be good right now. Now we need to make sure that our enemy is listening to the signals from the hitbox. So we need to make a hitbox as our onReady variable. And now we need to set up our ready function. And in this ready function, the only thing that we're going to be doing is tapping into our hitbox, looking for that signal, and connecting to it. We need to connect to it. And when we connect to it, we need to give it a name of a function that we want to call when this signal is emitted. So we're going to call this on take damage. We're going to make that right now. We're going to go func on take damage. As you can remember, in our signal, we're passing it in an amount, which is going to be emitted here. So we want to make sure we're getting the amount as an int. And then all we're going to be doing is current health minus equals amount. Let's add some print statements in here too so we can maybe see what's going on. We'll do RoboCop current health. Do current health. Let's do the same thing down here. RoboCop damaged, now current health. Okay. I should pop in the full variable name. That'll get rid of these errors down here. Okay, perfect. This still isn't going to do anything, right? Like, nothing's happening here. It does print here because we just on ready, we're printing this method, but we don't have anything to actually, we have nothing with a hurtbox on it right now. So what we're going to do is we actually need to go to our bullet. Let me bring up our bullet scene here. So our bullet is actually going to be the hurtbox. The bullet's going to actually have the hurtbox. So let's drag in a hurtbox, and I'm going to give it a collision shape. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I want a collision shape. And what we're going to do here is I'm just going to make this a rectangle. And since this is my player, this is doing damage, I'm going to make this orange. Let's make it green. Doesn't really matter. It's up to you. You don't have to do this at all if you don't want to, but the more collision shapes you add to your scene, the more kind of complicated it can get. So I'm going to make it right here. If we play our animation, you can see, like, it's bouncing back and forth. I think this is fine. It doesn't have to immediately make contact right at the tip. It's okay. I think it'll look good with our animations. Now we have this, okay, hurtbox. Our hurtbox set up for our bullet. So inside of our bullet, okay. So I think the one thing that I skipped over is we need to make sure each of these hurtboxes are configured properly on the collision nodes, or on their collision layers. So we want our hurtbox on the player bullet to be a player, but we only want it to look for enemies, right? And we want the enemy's hitbox to be on the enemy layer, which is 5. And the only thing it's going to look for is player. And since our bullet is on the player layer, it should be finding our bullets when it's area entering. So look, you can see that I shot, it entered here, and it's subtracting our health. So the one thing that we don't have is a death animation. So we can quickly, you know, manage that where current health, if current health is less than or equal to 0, Q free. We'll just get rid of the enemy. That's not very smooth. We'll make this a little bit more sexy, I guess you could say, down the road. But I think this is a really good introduction to hitboxes and hurtboxes. And I think I also want to set up our hitbox for our player, and then also make the enemy be able to damage us with their hurtbox. Okay, so to set up our hurtbox for RoboCop, let's look at our 2D scene. We are going to add a collision shape as we did for the hitbox. I'm going to make this one green since he's doing damage. I also need to make it I'm going to make it another capsule shape. It's probably going to be really similar to this. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, I think. I don't know. We'll play around with this. Okay, I'm going to turn off my hitbox so I can actually see this thing. This looks good to me. Like if we run into our enemy, we want to make sure we're doing damage, right? Okay, so that looks okay to me. Save that. Let's go into RoboCop, right? Okay, his hurtbox, standard damage of 1. That's fine. Now we go to our player. Our player is going to need a hitbox. It's going to need a collision shape, 2D. I'm going to give it another capsule shape. We're going to make this red, same as before. Let's bring this up. I'm going to make this a little more forgiving on the player. Okay, so that's going to be our hitbox for our player. And our player only collides with the ground, which is good. That's our collision shape is only going to collide with that. So now we want our hitbox to be on the player layer, but we're going to be looking for enemy. And now RoboCop, his hurtbox is going to be an enemy and look for our, not the ground, look for our player. Sorry, it's level 1. Okay, great. And his hurtbox does 1 damage as well. We're not overriding that. Our player health is, where is it? Our max health. We don't actually have that yet. So we're going to do similar to what we did for our enemy. We're going to add some export categories and some more export variables. So export category. We're going to name this one physics. It's going to be, these are going to be in our physics category. Another category for anything attack related. Then we're going to do an export category for our health. This is where we need to add some more. So add export variable. We're going to give our guy max health. It's an int equal to 5, so he's going to have more health than our enemy to start. Export variable current health integer equals 5. All right, so now if we click back into our player, you can see all these export variables. And now we need to actually see if we're going to be able to do some damage. So this should pop up now if we're properly configured when the player runs into the hurt box of the enemy. Okay, so we're getting enemy hurt box entered. So something is configured incorrectly. And I think yes, I didn't actually on ready variable my hitbox, and I didn't connect to the signal. Take damage, dot connect, on take damage. Now we have to make this method so it actually can do something, and it's going to be very similar to, or the exact same thing as what we did for the enemy, which is going to be current health minus equals amount, which we need to be passing in since the signal emits an integer. Cool, what do we have here? Q free. Okay, now this should work. Do I not have the print statement set up properly? Hitbox. On range, take damage. Oh, okay, hurtbox. We're not actually emitting our health anywhere. So let's add some print statements just so we can make sure that this is all set up, because we don't have a health bar, which we're going to start making in a UI eventually. Maybe that'll actually be the next video. Okay, so on ready, and then I also want to on take damage. After we take damage, player current health. Okay, let's see if this worked. All right, it's player current health is 5. I entered the hitbox. It's 4, 3, 2, 1. I should be dead. We're not going to set that up now, but we will make a death animation. We're also going to make it so that if the player runs into an enemy, there's going to be a knockback, so it doesn't, we have no indication that something's happening now. I can also, move the enemy. We don't want that to happen. So we do have a couple of things to cover in the next couple of videos. So thanks for sticking around, and let me know if there's anything specific that you want me to cover in the future.